It's going to happen. Just a matter of time. Ooh. That is, look at that, that's best mullet of the day, look. So basically we're heading to do a bit of mullet fishing on the Thames. So we're going to get there way ahead of time so I can go through some methods with you guys and girls. I'm originally from North London. I've been down here in the southeast now for about, southeast London for 20 years. Got into fly fishing in 2011, and I just love fishing, going fishing as much as possible. And whilst at the moment, because I'm in competition fly fishing or getting into it, I do a lot of mainstream stuff, which over here in the UK would be, your rivers for trout and grayling. I don't do any still water, which is one of the biggest. But because I'm here in London and we don't really have any trout rivers apart from one in London, in order to fish as much as possible, I broaden my scope and do lots of multi-species fishing, which is what I was doing really, well before the competition stuff came in. And that's kind of what I'm known for on social media, so to speak. Like a lot of the multi-species stuff. You can probably get the Vista in the distance over there, Canary Wharf. So we're just driving through a very well-off area in London, and we're heading to somewhere that's pretty suburban. Not quite on the outskirts of London, but not far off it. There's just so much to be had in all the different corners of London. And yeah, it's just a great way to explore this fantastic city and, break down your own preconceptions on different communities and stuff like that, And we're about 25 minutes away. All right, so we're coming into this, it's one of my favourite parts of London because it's pretty green, but we've had like an extension of the rail network, so it's more connected to the rest of London, which historically it hasn't been, and there are loads of developments being thrown up, but it's just such a nice part of town. You've got lakes, you've got canals, you've got the Thames. It really is one of my favourite parts of London. Oh, they're here. Right, let's get set up. Oh man, they're not really going nuts, but there are enough fish there. All right, so we're here today on a section of the Thames. We're just within London in an old sort of it's in a bit of an industrial landscape, and we're here after the Mullet. So we've got another sort of hour before they come in within reachable distance, but I can already see quite a few fish in the distance moving, and what we need is for them to come very close in, because this is really close range fishing. So I'm going to get set up. I'm really excited. I haven't been down here for a year. So a little tip that I picked up from a Canadian competition angler. He fishes for the Canadian national side in the world. His name is Ivo Balanov. When you're making up a leader that has droppers, what I used to do is what many people do, and what some of you watching this will still do. You cut off two separate lengths, you line the lengths up together, do your water knot. The problem is you always risk dropping one of the lengths of line. So what he does, or what I learned from him, is if you loop the line, put a big loop in it like that, she will go a bit shorter, and then you do your water knot or whatever it is. Do it like that. Then open up the loop, get your tag end cut, and there's your dropper. So one piece of line, you've done that. The setup that we're using here is just a 9-foot 4-weight. This is quite a fast action rod. I would say a 4 to 6 weights are optimal. It's a 9-foot rod. You could use an 8.5, even a 10. The reel's got a floating line, just a beta line, because we're fishing over mud. We're using sort of 0.19 mono, so that's about what, 7 pounds ish. Fluoro, mono, doesn't matter. And we're going to use 2 flies, and this is a method that was devised by a guy called Josh Allen, and where we fish 2 flies static on the deck. So the thing with mullet is that, with the thin lips, is that they're detritivores. They tend to feed on like microorganisms, vegetable matter basically, and so these aren't really things that you can replicate with a fly. They will eat shrimps and anything that does sort of happen into their path, but most of what they're eating is in the surface layers of the mud, and they've evolved a very long digestive tract, very similar to cattle, ruminants, things like that, sheep, etc., where they have long stomachs to help keep a relatively poor foodstuff in the gut as long as possible to extract the maximum amount of nutrients. So this particular method, I think it works well because you're just presenting stuff static on the bottom. And I used to strip shrimp patterns, and I would catch maybe 1 fish every four sessions. And Josh Allen's method, it's just like, for anyone who goes carp fishing or is familiar with carp fishing, it's like the hair rig of mullet fishing. You know, I can do like 3 fish in a session now. I fish it slightly differently to Josh. He'll have 3 droppers, and one, well, on the top dropper will be a dry fly, and that'll act as his indicator. I like to use you know, some kind of a bobber foam indicator, which allows me to sort of adjust the depths, but generally speaking, I'm not fishing anything deep. For those of you who've never done any kind of mullet fishing, part of the hard work, well, of any saltwater fly fishing, is finding the fish. Once you find the fish, that's most of it done. From a technical standpoint, the fishing is quite simple, quite easy, straightforward. With mullet, they do a couple of things to show you where they are. Firstly, they're the only fish that I can think of in a tidal environment that actually shows you their whereabouts with them not even being present, and that's in the form of feeding tracks. They're usually about 4 inches long, and that's where they move and take, you know, the surface layer of the silt, sort of sift through it, and it usually looks like as if 2 fingers have just gone like, you know, like that in the mud. The other thing is that they're always really visible, and right now we've got quite a few fish down there. You can see bow waves, splashes, tails. It's just unmistakable. So the best way to scout for them is to look in likely looking areas. So here we've got like a sort of, I don't know how to describe this, a channel, a sort of mini creek. We've got some kind of an outflow here, and they just follow up this channel. And yeah, so, you know, I'd look on a map, look for bays, inlets, outflows, yeah, and just, you know, go at low tide. You have to take into account that there are different kinds of tides, neaps, springs, and some will fish better than others. So here a neap tide is, you know, it's not great. You'll hardly see any fish. So you do have to keep that in mind. Sometimes you'll have to go to a venue a couple of times, or, you know, well, several times, to identify a pattern and when to fish and when not to fish. But once you see them, they're unmistakable. They give themselves away like no other fish. They'll be really close in. In some cases, you can be over, well, if you take a much wider area, I've been in some areas where you've got hundreds, if not, you know, low thousands of fish all 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds. Right, so this is a pattern I picked up from Mullet on the Fly legend Colin McLeod. It's just flexi floss bloodworm tied with beads. These are on fulling mill check nymph hooks. I think that's a size 16. 14, 16s are about ideal. Mullets have pretty large mouths. You don't even need a vice to tie these. All you do is just use mono, or you use a bobbin threader, thread the beads on, thread the floss through it, and then sort of thread the beads on. Yeah, and I just use 2 spaced about what, about 60 centimeters apart. Indicator another foot, 2 feet above it, and I'll move it around. And sometimes I'll even have this hanging mid-water, but generally speaking, the point flight always has to be on the deck. They're moving down there, so let's get down there. So once again, similar to how I fish the docks, I've done sort of, been inspired by Howard Croston. I use this as a line tray here. So I've just got a carabiner that just sort of clips onto the belt like that. Another thing is, we're on mud flats. Anything that touches the mud is just going to get caked in it. So I want to have everything on my person. I don't want to put stuff down. Another thing to note, extendable lure style net handle. It's absolutely vital, because you can see the mud flats are down there. I don't want to be, you need a long handle net to get them in. And if we do get one, we've got a fine mesh net. I don't like anything that has large holes for any of my fishing unless I really have to. And with mullet, they've got quite pointy fins, and on nets that have larger holes, their fins can go through the holes and get split. So these are just far kinder, these kind of micro mesh nets. So I'll tell you what, of all of the fish you can catch, for me, mullet are the ones that, really get your heart pumping. And the reason for that is that when they're in good numbers, you've just like got a pod of tens of fish sometimes, and you're just, you'll see it in a minute why it's just so good. We can see the fish are beginning to come in here, and we've got relatively good numbers starting to appear. So I'm just going to make my way down. It's just, the word is suspense with mullet. That's what it is. It's just like you've got a pod of fish there. They're right next to the indicator. There's probably like 20 or 30. They're all like 2, 3, 4 pounds. It's really, safety is really important, especially when you're fishing over mud flats. I know these areas, so I know where I can sort of push it and where I can't. I would say if you're going to set foot on an environment like this, well, it's not I'm going to suggest, I'm going to say absolutely never ever wear rubber sort of waders, PVC waders. They have too much stretch in them, and if you go too deep when you try to pull up, the elasticity in the rubber will prevent you sort of getting your leg up. So always wear tight fitting, like breathable waders or wellies, because at least with wellies, if you go, it prevents you going too deep in there. They're easy to ditch. PVC are a death trap, an absolute death trap in mud. It must be noted that you see on these mud flats, it's very deceptive. So here we've got some rocks, so I'm just gonna sort of feel and get a gauge. I've never really fished off here. I'm more familiar with further up, so I'm going to be very cautious. Right, I can feel it's quite hard underfoot. Quite hard underfoot. I also need to think about how I'm going to land fish. So we've got the group up there. Right. There we go. Right, so we got a group. They are a bit further than I like. And I'm just going to do sort of a Belgian cast. That's bang on. And I'm just going to crouch down. We do have a bit of flow now, which isn't great. I want to be fishing on the deck. Right, we've got a fish down here, so now we're looking. Right, that's much better. So now we're right in the edge. We don't want to be far out with this method. We've got fish just in front of us here. So what I do with this, we're still quite early, so the fish aren't really here in big numbers yet. So I'm just going to go for broke and get on top of them. It's not nowhere that I want to be now. That's it. Right, I'm not happy with that cast. This is not a deep, we're not fishing for them in deep water, but it's just the angle. I want to be where they're here and I can fish out rather than up and across, because it's just not the best angle. Right, that'll have to do. It's not perfect. See how it's being taken out? That's not what I want. But this is why mullet fishing is so exciting. I've got a group of them just around this indicator. Got the fly right there. It's just when. Just heart and mouth stuff. It's really important to stress that you strip strike. A brisk strip strike and then lift up. And then let the rod tip do the work. Don't carry on as if you're fishing for GT and just holding them back. You strip strike, brisk, lift up. I find if you hold on to them too tightly in the early stages, you'll lose them. And every once in a while, one sort of bolts. And they can put on a really quick turn of speed. Remember, these things are they're loved by a lot of predators, sharks, seals. We get seals coming up here. So, right, the water's getting a bit too deep now. Yeah, I think we should move because there are enough fish here. It's a risk, but I think it's the risk worth taking. If the fish are showing here, then they'll be up there. And yeah, let's not fuck about, let's go. Fuck, we're not gonna get down there. Got good numbers of fish down there. Oh. You right getting down here? Yeah. You sure? I'm going to race down there. I'm not fucking about. Okay. Oh my God. You can get right down here, Patrick. I need to calm down. Adrenaline's too much. I'm not going to fish well. Right, I'm going to move up and fish on the mud. The reason is always about trying to get a decent angle on these fish. But there are so many fish in this bit. So this is the thing, I want to fish close. I want to be a couple of feet like that. I want to be dead close. And now the case is just a case of waiting. While I'm trying to keep an eye on the indicator, within my peripheral vision, I'm trying to keep an eye on what's happening further up, because sometimes they will move, but then sometimes you can end up chasing them a bit too much. So because we got a bigger group up here, I might just dump this indicator over there now. There, that's good. So what I've done is where I can see that there are more fish over on this bit. I've decided to dump the indicator just there. So now we're over a really good group. Oh, can you see those tails? And you can tell they're thin lip mullet because the tails have like a blue sheen. Oh. And it's just a case of waiting for one to pick it up. I'm going to go over the top. So what we're doing now, even though we've got fish back there, I've been watching over here, and we've got quite a good group here, but it's not good because I would have expected a fish by now. But that is a nice group just in front there, so that is a fucking good group. So that is a mega group. Just want this wind to die down, or whether this ship or something's come through. Was that a boat that came through that did this? See, it's all very short range. We want this whole thing to die down. This see this current, but it's really uncontrollable when it's like this. Oops. Foul hooked, I think. Is it foul hooked? Nah, legit, I think. I think it's legit. Yep, it's in the mouth. Come on. Well, this one's giving us a mullet fight. Shit. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, you can see the fins of these fish are quite pointed, and you will do a lot of damage to the fins if you use nets that have large holes, because they poke through and it's just not great. And that fish there could be 8 years old. Something will take a long time for them to come sexually mature. So now we're going to slip this gorgeous fish back. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah? Put it back. There you go. And I don't know if you can see just how coloured this water is we're catching them in. We can't see to the bottom in what? A foot of water. So if you're in like somewhere like the Bristol Channel, and if you've got thin lip mullet, you know, even if you can't see the bottom, just give it a go. All right, Patrick, let's find another group. All right, so a key with mullet fishing, particularly on here, the Thames, is certain areas they come alive for moments and then they die. And then just as one's dying, another moment or another group of fish will be somewhere else. And that's where you have to put in the legwork and take the risks, because sometimes, you know, if you know the fish in an area, the temptation is always to go where you think the fish are. But sometimes it's good to sacrifice your fishing, you know, and accept that you might not catch, but you never know, you might find something. So one day when I was down there, I decided to walk up to this corner here, and I found fish here. So I've, you know, got a number of areas that fish one after the other. So I'm going to speed up now. I'm not going to fuck about. Right, in there. Oh, you fucking hell, I don't know what that is. Be careful of this. This is what happens when you're too enthusiastic. I mean, if I'd have gone into that knee first, that wouldn't have been good. Right, so I've got a pod of fish here. Once again, the presentation isn't how I'd like it to be because we're going to cut across, and I always want the flies directly in front of me, but needs must. There we go. And once again, I don't know if it's coming across in camera just how coloured this water is. It just goes to show you how well fish can see in water that you think is blown out. And the key is, in blown out water, is always to get close to the fish, which with mullet is obviously a lot easier than for a lot of other species. Come on. So I'll just keep the net by the side of me there. Right, I can see all kinds of mushroom clouds in front of me, meaning that the fish are down here. And that's another sign. If you're not seeing them swirling around, always have a look with thin lips to see if they're kicking up the mud, almost like carp. Once again, always scanning. Right, I've got a bunch of fish in front of me. I'm going to take it in just, well, I'm going to leave it here actually. Right, I'm going to take it. I've got my leader coming through, which isn't great. We've got 0.19, 0.20. You can use like fluorocarbon, copolymer, it doesn't really matter. We've got a very small group over us, but we've got enough fish to be happy with. And it's just a case now of patience and waiting for one to pick the fly up. Occasionally what I will do is I'll have one, oh right, this one's kind of going to ground, going to ground itself. That was actually a very subtle take, that was. Come on. And right, I'm going to take it over here. These fish are masters of escape, so when you net them you have to be really, really vigilant because they will blast out of nets. So what do you want me to do?
You can go back.
And just look at them. What a gorgeous fish. Right, we're going to put him back. He's going to go flying. They do shed scales very... Oh, I got pricked by that fish. They do shed scales quite easily, so always try and minimize handling. But they've evolved to lose those scales very easily in case they get grabbed by something. Took the point fly. It was only a very subtle dip. See? Yep. So this is one this is one of the worst things about mullet fishing sometimes. So I have to wait for the tide to come in a bit more. It's always really frustrating when you're watching fish out in front of you, and it's kind of like when you're a kid. Are we nearly there yet? You know, that impatience. Oh. All right, so we've got another pod in front of us. Just wait. Right, I'm going to take this in a bit closer, I think. Oh. Right, I'm going to take this in. Because I always want to be on the shallow gradient rather than it dipping down. It's actually not too bad if it dips down if the fish are really close in. But you want the flies, at least the point fly on the deck. I mean, sometimes I do hang the dropper mid-water, and I have caught fish like that. But it's always about the point fly on the deck, a nice shallow angle into the flies, direct contact, fishing close in. And as the case with all the other areas, my peripheral vision, I'm constantly looking. I'm probably going to dump it off the middle here. So right, now they're starting to show just a little bit more to the left, so I'm going to give it a little, you know, got a mushroom cloud there. I'm going to give it a bit more time, and then I'm going to put one. Oh, I'm going to say that was probably foul hook, that fish. Where did the indicator came back, didn't it? That probably would have been a foul hooked fish. So just the way that he flew off really quickly. That's the only problem when you strip strike. I suspect what happened is that fish felt the prick of the hook somewhere and had already bolted by the time I was. But it's not good, because that kind of thing can kill a spot dead. Right, it's a bit demoralizing now, because what happened was I broke off, had to re-rig, and unfortunately in the time that it's taken me to re-rig, the fish disappeared a little bit, but we've still got enough fish for me to sort of be reasonably happy, reasonably confident of another take. Look, we've got a bunch down there. Look at that. Oh, look at that. But once we do get to these kind of levels, I'm a bit. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, right. Right. I might have to get you, ask you if you can get my net there, Patrick. And all right, this is. We've been granted a second chance now, so. Right, they're coming over again. It's going to happen. Just a matter of time. Right, ease off the power now, because we don't want him to ground himself. There we go. Now start cooking the power on. Hold the rod tip low. I'm going to let him unbeach himself. Keep that rod tip low. And get him away from the main shoal, because we can. I suspect this one might, yeah, and he's taken the dropper. Right, once again, these fish will jump out, so you always want to make sure you have that secure in the net. All right. That is, look at that, that's best mullet of the day, look. All right, let's get the hook out. Just wet the hand. All right, he's hooked just down there. Just be very careful taking the hook, right. Okay. And you can see what a gorgeous fish. I mean, this fish could be what, 6, 7, 8 years old? Magnificent fish, absolutely beautiful. They possess quite an unusual, well, rare trait for fish. They're euryhaline. They can move between salt and fresh water pretty easily. They just blast. He's going to blast away. You ready? Yeah. All right, so the kind of methods, or the method that you've seen here, it works, you know, anywhere you've got mud flats, or even a sandy bottoms. So if you've got any venues, even that are as coloured as this, definitely give this method a go. It's absolutely phenomenal. The guy who created it, once again, is called Josh Allen, a really talented Kent-based fly angler. And once again, for the carp anglers, this is the hair rig of mullet fishing. It's really made things very easy. That said, you still have to really work at this kind of fishing, finding the locations, learning how to read the water. But yeah, we've had a brilliant session, 3 fish. We might even be able to catch another one, so great.